Okay, hello everyone. Welcome back to the channel. This is Emil. In today's video, we're going to be running through Twitter stock, doing a full analysis on all the good points for Twitter, on all the potential risks with Twitter stock. So a quick overview on the stock. It has a pretty low price to earnings ratio of 17 at the moment in comparisons to Facebook's, which is above 20, and Snapchat's, which is also above 20. As you can see in the chart, it's had a pretty bumpy ride since it IPO'd. It shot up after its IPO and was doing very poorly after that. Dropped all the way down. Eventually, Jack Dorsey came on and started to turn the company back around. Jack Dorsey was the original founder, and he was taken out of the company, and he now runs Square, which I've done a stock analysis of as well. Square stock and Cash App. I'll link that up there. But he's started to turn things around. I'll go through that more towards the end of the video. So Twitter has much fewer users than Facebook or Instagram. It has pretty much the same number of users as Snapchat, so about 300 million. So that's monthly active users. So Twitter definitely still has more room to grow than Facebook or Instagram, in my opinion. Or, well, almost definitely. Nearly half the world has a Facebook account, so definitely there's much more room for expansion for Twitter in that regard. Twitter is obviously one of the long-standing social media networks that has really proven itself. Like, there's hundreds of social media networks that come around and then they fail. Eventually they fail. Like I think TikTok will. Snapchat has had to turn around. Maybe I'll do a stock analysis on Snapchat in the future. So if you're interested in that, let me know down below in the comments. But yeah, Twitter is definitely established itself as one of the social media networks of the future, and that it's not going anywhere, in my opinion. I think it'll be around for decades, just like the other big dogs. So yeah, Facebook has 2.4 billion monthly active users, and Twitter has 0.33. So Facebook therefore has 7 times the amount of users, but it has 22 times the market cap. We have to dig a bit deeper because Facebook does have Instagram, WhatsApp, and Messenger. So there's a lot more growth catalyst for Facebook potentially than Twitter. But there's a big discrepancy between the price for Facebook and the number of users. So in that regard, Twitter is cheaper. But I'm definitely not against Facebook at all. It's my second largest position. But I'm just myself. The reason I'm started getting interested in Twitter is because I finally starting to use the app myself. I think it's better geared towards older generation people, whereas like Instagram and Snapchat are for people 25 and under, really. Especially Snapchat is really for the younger generation. Instagram is kind of probably a median age in the low 20s. I think Twitter's kind of the older, along with Facebook, kind of more geared towards older people. And I think that's a good thing for Twitter as people like me start to come off Snapchat and come off Instagram and convert onto the Twitter platform. People of my age and older have a lot more money to spend online. They have a lot more disposable income. They're higher earnings. They're higher earners than the younger people. So potentially this is the reason why my first thought of why Twitter might be a good investment is because the users are generally older, so they're more likely to spend money on the Twitter platform. So the advertisers on the Twitter platform get more money, so therefore they'll spend more money on Twitter. So that's just the way I'm thinking about it with Twitter stock. Okay, so Twitter is also a favorite for celebrities and politicians and eccentric CEOs like Elon Musk, Conor McGregor, Donald Trump. They're all big on Twitter, and people always flock to Twitter to see what these people are saying, or Twitter's always mentioned in the news, or what someone's tweeted is always mentioned in the news rather than what someone put on Facebook or what someone put up on Instagram. So I think Twitter does have that niche where people go to see what the big names are saying. So in my opinion, and in a lot of people's opinions, the most important statistic for a growing social media app is the number of users, the growth of the user base, rather so much than the earnings or the revenue. However, Twitter is doing well on all fronts, but particularly with the users, it's really growing really fast. Year over year, they got 24% growth in the monetizable daily active users. So one thing about user growth is that it's a leading indicator of revenue growth. User growth doesn't bring increased revenue straight away. It's actually a lagging indicator. The revenue lags the user growth. So it's actually nice that we're seeing this user growth because it's kind of giving us a buying opportunity before the revenue growth comes in. So the user growth is beating both Snapchat and Facebook and Instagram at the moment. So that's really nice to see. Twitter keeps improving their platform as well. Now you can, for example, you can retweet with a comment rather than just retweet. And they're also trying out this thing called fleets rather than tweets. So fleets would just last 24 hours. The same idea. It's just that they only last 24 hours, much like Instagram stories or Snapchat stories. So they're kind of copying the other social media, the success of the stories in the other social media platforms, which did really, really well. Stories are doing so well for Facebook and Instagram. So maybe fleets will be an opportunity for someone to put something up that they don't want to be there for the rest of their life. Just like it is with stories on the other platforms. The platform isn't just getting better for the users, it's also getting much better for the advertisers as well. Advertising engagement up 25%, and the cost per engagement is down 19%. So if everything's getting better for the advertisers, if they're getting better bang for their buck, they're going to spend more of those bucks to get more bangs. Yeah, so I believe Twitter has plenty of room to grow, and what they're aiming for is becoming kind of the news source of the future, where everyone goes to see live events or updates on sports and live events. And even the COVID-19 pandemic, people were going to Twitter to get updates on what's going on, and it actually really, really increased the number of users, and the amount of time people were spending on the platform increased because of the COVID-19 situation. Although the COVID-19 situation is going to have a really bad impact on the revenue. So just keep that in mind. The users has come up, but the advertisers aren't spending anywhere near as much as they were before. They're also really improving their algorithms in regards to both users and advertisers. So the tweets on your homepage are better suited to you now. Tweets find you rather than you having to go out and find the tweets that you'd like. They're finding you now. They're getting much better at that. They're also kind of copying the Facebook format for advertisers to advertise to people who have the correct interests for their product or service. So they're getting a lot better for advertisers as well as for users. So there was a problem with their advertising platform in 2019, and this really impacted their revenue. So their revenue didn't grow nearly as much as expected because of this bug in their advertising platform, and their stock took a really big hit because of this. Now the stock price is still deflated, and the issue has been fixed. So this could be considered to be a nice buying opportunity because of that. So the revenue growth in 2017 was -4%. 2018 it was 25% growth, positive growth. And 2019 it was 14%. So this gives us an average of 13% over the last 3 years. So if they can keep this, if they can get back to an average of say 15%, hopefully in the next decade or so, of revenue growth, which I believe is possible as more and more advertisers start to advertise on social media. And Twitter has already been one of the big advertisers for larger brands. Whereas like when you go on Snapchat, the ads are kind of, drop shippers and just young entrepreneurs selling fake Chinese AirPods and stuff like that. Whereas Twitter ads are like, IBM or Coca-Cola, like they're the big players. So as more and more money comes onto the Twitter platform, I believe their revenues will continue increasing at pretty nice rates. So yeah, I'm a big fan of Jack Dorsey. He runs Square, as I already mentioned, but everything has improved. Everything that we want to see improving has improved since he came back on. Like the profitability, the revenue, the user growth, everything has improved except the stock price, which Jack Dorsey has no direct impact over really. Just the foundations and the growth of the company, the things you want to see growing in a company are growing. So that's great since he started coming back in. So a few of these charts I have today are from Hypercharts, and they're made by Galileo from Hyperchange, the YouTube channel. So I'd really recommend checking his channel out. He's great. So in this chart here, you can see the revenue growth in percentage and the operating expenses year over year, also percentage wise. So you can see the operating expenses are, the average amount is seems like it would be a bit lower than the revenue year over year growth. So that's good to see. The revenue growth seems to, in the last 5 years, is about 11%. Okay, so one of the best things about Twitter, in my opinion, is their balance sheet. This is a company that has a 10 out of 10 balance sheet. They have almost 7 billion in cash, 13 billion in total assets, and only 4 billion in total liabilities. So this is an absolutely cracking balance sheet. So for me, if a company has a huge amount of debt, we kind of have to add that onto the market cap, because you're paying for that extra debt. Like that's added, that should be added to the price to earnings ratio, because that debt has to be paid off. But if a company has loads of cash, that should be that. If a company has, an extra few billion of cash or 100 billion in cash, that should be subtracted from the market cap, in my opinion, because that cash is ours. So as we can see, this is the cash and short-term investments that Twitter has been accumulating for the last number of years. So as you can see, it's very, very healthy looking. So they're well prepared for any sort of short-term trouble anyway. But even so, like, eventually this cash will be either reinvested into the business, or it will be paid out in dividends in probably like a decade or so, in dividends or buybacks. So this cash is essentially ours if you're buying the stock. Okay, so obviously there's a lot of short-term trouble for Twitter. A lot of people don't like Jack Dorsey. He's kind of an extravagant CEO. He's planning to move to Africa. He wants to move to Africa to help Square, because he wants Square to he wants to make a difference in the world. So he thinks the best thing to do is to move Square and Twitter to Africa. He's really going to help spending in Africa and payment systems in Africa, because he feels like they have the biggest problem with that. So he wants Square there. And he's also bringing over Twitter. So he's doing some great things. So make of that of you will. I don't think it's going to have a negative impact on Twitter. I think he's a great CEO. But Wall Street really don't like this, and Wall Street don't like Twitter at the moment in general at all. So none of them really have been buying Twitter. So that's kind of kept the stock price down, and they all have hold or sell ratings on Twitter, which has kept the stock price down. So once the story changes, which hopefully I believe it will, Wall Street will come back into Twitter, and we will see some nice growth in Twitter, in my opinion. Some more headwinds for Twitter in the short term. Obviously the coronavirus. Small to medium sized businesses a lot of them will go out of business. Advertising revenue, especially in the travel industry and sporting industry, will be cut completely, and overall advertising will reduce significantly. But we're going to get some onboard of new users, which will in the long term help Twitter's growth. So what I've done, I've opened a very initial position into Twitter. It's less than 1% of my portfolio. I have 10 stocks that are less than 1% of my portfolio. So these kind of stocks are tune in later stocks. That's how I look at them. I like this company and I want to follow the story, and I don't want to just watch the stock. I want to actively watch the stock. So if I have a small position in it, then I'm going to follow it a lot more closely and to see where the story is going. So what I'm going to do in regards to Twitter in the future is, if the stock price, because it's been so volatile, I could easily see it drop more in the future, especially with what everything's going on at the moment. I think we could get back down to $15, and at that point I would really invest heavily. Another scenario in which I'd invest more in Twitter is if the story begins to change or get even better. Then I'd continue investing a lot more if the story improves and the stock price doesn't really get too elevated. Or if the stock price decreases a lot and the story remains the same, then I'd also be very interested in buying more shares. But at the moment, I'm just keeping it as a small position and seeing what's happening in the next year or so in regards to its story and its stock price, and then I'll make my decision whether to add more then. Yeah, I believe Twitter has the capability of becoming a $100 billion or multi-$100 billion company in the next 10 or so years. So that would give us a 5 to 10x at least, if that comes to fruition. When Twitter IPO'd, a lot of people thought it would become the next Facebook, and it would become a $100 billion plus company when it IPO'd. So maybe they'll believe it again once it starts getting some more impressive revenue growth and user growth. Okay, so that's all I wanted to say about Twitter and what I'm doing in regards to Twitter. Let me know what you think of Twitter stock below. If you liked the video, I'd hugely appreciate it if you could drop me a like. Subscribe for more videos like this, and thanks again. I'll catch you in the next one. Cheers.